Good evening and welcome to this special presentation. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. You're watching World at 8 billion, India's stabilizing population. Earlier this week, a baby born somewhere around the world became the 8th billionth person. More than the identity of the baby, the number 8 billion is important. That's how many people we are in the world now. Growing population has many implications. It is a testimony, the endurance of the human race. On the other hand, it also marks increasing pressure on our world with limited resources and uneven distribution of wealth. India is set to overtake China to become the most populous country in the world by next year. In the next half an hour, we'll try and understand these global population trends and opportunities for India. Welcome to this program. Let us now understand and take a look at what the latest United Nations reports on global population says and what are the observations that have been made on India. We'll look at some key data on the screens now as far as world at 8 billion is concerned. Let us first look at the global trends. World's population hit 8 billion people. That's how many people we are in the world today. 8 billion is the mark. It took about 12 years for the world population to grow from 7 to 8 billion. So that duration is important because 70% of added population in this duration lies in the low income and lower middle income countries. The next billion from 8 to 9 is expected to take about 14.5 years, 14 and a half years. So we see a slowdown as far as global population growth is concerned. We'll deliberate on the factors later in the program today. The population projected to reach the peak at about 10.4 billion around 2080. I'm talking about global population. It's going to remain at that level until 2100. That's what the global trends on population look like as far as world at 8 billion is concerned. Let us also look at the manner in which the population data has come for India. In the next set of graphics, we'll take a look at some key data as far as India facts are concerned. India's population growth appears to be stabilizing. That's important. We'll interpret that total fertility rate has declined from earlier 2.2 to 2 at the national level. There's an increase in adoption of modern family planning methods as well, which is leading to these important positive figures for India. And India has the potential to achieve its demographic dividend for the young population that it has. And United Nations report also says that India's youthful population, the demographic dividend, is also going to be a resource to solve global problems. So those were some of the key data and information available with the United Nations. Now let me introduce to you two very special eminent guests who are joining us to take forward a conversation about global and Indian trends as far as the population is concerned. Dr. Deepa Prasad, Chief of Programs, UNFPA India, is joining us, and also Dr. Sanjay Kumar, Population Dynamics Specialist, is joining us from UNFPA India. Good evening and warm welcome to both of you. Let me just inform our audiences. UNFPA stands for United Nations Population Fund. It's a lead UN agency assisting the government of India for many decades to provide family planning and health services, advance reproductive health and rights, and improve maternal health. Warm welcome to our guests once again. Dr. Deepa Prasad, if I can come to you first, ma'am. World population reaches that 8 billion mark. Should it be a moment of celebration? Should it be a moment of concern, or both? How do we interpret this huge figure to begin with?
Good evening, Shubhendu. I think it's a time for us to celebrate. The world reaching 8 billion population is a milestone for the humankind and a reason for celebration for all of us. This shows that humanity is getting stronger, people are living longer, and they are healthier. And this is the result of advancement in medical field and public health, which has resulted in lesser maternal and childhood mortalities and more lives being saved, people living longer. There is reduction in poverty and overall development. The planet is also more demographically diverse than ever before, with individual countries and regions having different population trends in growth as well as in terms of decline of population. For example, you did allude to some of the data, but I just want to emphasize that nearly 2/3 of the world's population lives where the fertility rate is below 2.1 per woman. Fertility rate, or the total fertility, is the average number of children that would be born to a woman in her lifetime, growing by the current trends in fertility. while at the same time population continues to grow in the world's poorest countries, most of which are in sub-Saharan Africa. That's one aspect. The other is the demographic diversity within the countries. For example, what's the proportion of elderly versus the working age population? The sex ratios, especially the sex ratio for younger age. So it's also important to examine what's happening within the countries and within the state in terms of the population diversity.
Right.
While we celebrate...
Those are some important points of to celebrate, ma'am, as you mentioned. But if I talk about the themes which should make us also concerned, we see that about 70 to 90% of the population growth that is recorded, that is also forecast, is taking place in lower income, middle lower income regions and countries, which also means that there's going to be an additional pressure on the resources of this poor or developing countries. How does that pan out, according to you?
Yeah. For societies to thrive, we must look beyond numbers.
Sure.
Each individual has the potential to contribute to a more prosperous and equal world. The problem here is about inequitable distribution of resources. It's not about lack of resources. While we celebrate the 8 billion population, it's also a clarion call for humanity to find out solutions for the challenges that we are facing, challenges of inequality, and making sure progress can be enjoyed equally and sustainably, regardless of whether the populations are growing or shrinking. And for us to succeed, we also need to make sure that everybody is able to contribute, especially women and girls in a population. And they must be placed at the center of population policies that the countries bring out. So investment in human resources becomes even more critical when and they need to be coming up with solutions. And these solutions could range from technological advancements to solutions to sustainable living. And if we need to address or achieve the SDGs, we need to address the inequalities that exist within the country and across the globe.
Right. Dr. Sanjay Kumar, Population Dynamics Specialist with UNFPA India, is also with us. Dr. Kumar, how do you look at this milestone figure of 8 billion that the world population has reached? And I particularly want to engage with you as far as the slowdown of the population growth is concerned globally. What does that really imply, and how does it impact the days ahead for the global population?
Okay, thank you. Actually, yes, we have reached the number of, or magical number of 8 billion today as a global population. But the fact of the story is also that the fertility levels are declining. So we have reached number, population is increasing, but we should also remember that the population is increasing at a decreased rate. So as you have also said in the beginning that it will take more and more years to add another billion. But these are the scientific phenomena, we call it as population momentum. So even after having achieved by any population the replacement level of fertility, it takes its own time, maybe few decades, where the population actually stabilizes and reach to its peak. So this is the time when the number of persons in the population will continue to increase. Factors are many because of the large cohort coming into the reproductive ages. Plus we have a increasing life expectancy at birth, so people are living longer. So these phenomena is happening. But at the same time, we also have to go and look beyond numbers. And when we talk about population dynamics, so there are so many things are happening with the increase or decrease of population, which we call it various emerging population mega trends. For example, in future years, we are going to witness that our working age population will continue to increase in terms of size as well as in terms of its proportion. And that gives an opportunity for that, how do we reap the benefit and how do we convert our numbers into a resources, so that they can, unlimited resources, limited resources, they can tap it in such a way that it is used for the humanity. So those are the skill, and how do we develop human capital. So these are the things which we have to also think together.
Let's also now focus on the data and trends that have come in for India. Dr. Deepa Prasad, I'll come to you. India is projected to surpass China as the world's most populous nation by sometime next year, but the data also says that the growth in Indian population is stabilizing. If you could help us simplify, what do these trends and milestones mean for India?
So Subhendu, India has reached or it's come down below the replacement level. So the replacement level fertility is 2.1 and we are below that too. In the last 3 decades, between 1992, 93 to 2022, currently, if you see, the fertility levels have declined from 3.4 to less than 2. And within India, we see that nearly 31 states and union territories have achieved the replacement level fertility. But what we also see is there are states within the country where the fertility levels are high. One of the issues that we see is there is an unmet need for family planning. Definitely there has been a decline over the years and over the decades, and it has come to a single digit. And we still have an unmet need of about 9.4%. So when I say unmet need, it's the unmet need for family planning, which means that women who do not want to have children now or for the next 2 years are not using any method of contraceptive, and it could be due to many reasons. So India has definitely seen great improvement in terms of its family planning indicators, demographic indicators, etc. But we also have a challenge of ensuring that access to services or access to family planning or women's ability to use family planning methods are equitable and it's available and across the country. So that's where we are facing the challenge. The other focus also is to look at what is the population composition and what are their needs. If India has a large youth population, what are their family planning needs and what are their sexual reproductive health needs? In tandem to this, greater investments in education and also ensuring gender equality also help in reducing the population of a country.
So, ma'am, we see a host of factors associated with
have an interplay.
Right, in getting the population growth to stabilize. Dr. Sanjay Kumar, a little more, sir, on the kind of difference that India's family planning programs have made a difference at the grassroots level when we talk about the stabilizing population growth, because we didn't have, if I may say, a coercive program like in the neighborhood. In China, we saw a one-child policy. India did not need that, and yet we have a stabilizing population. What does it say about the programs that of family planning that we had undertaken?
Yes, definitely. I think there was a lot of concerns a few decades earlier that the TFR and fertility is very high. And I think over the last few decades, the family planning programs and overall the reproductive health program, I will say, is actually has been working. And after, when we have a lot of investment coming into that, there are several milestones which this country has achieved in the family planning program. Even if you see, first of all, it started providing, good quality services, reaching out to the vulnerable sections, those who need. That's what, as Deepa was telling, that unmet need has reduced. The use of contraceptives has also increased over a period of time, and even the government has taken a very conscious decision to expand the basket of choices of contraceptives. So all kind of things have been provided: information, quality of services, reaching out to the rural areas. So all those things, along with education as well as empowering women and adults and girls, has also helped that they now exercise, they are able to exercise whatever they want to have. And actually these things have led to a decline in fertility and achieving the replacement level of fertility, which will lead to population stabilizations in future.
And Dr. Kumar, we know that India China together comprise some 1/3 of the world's population. So far, China has been the world's most populous country. Yeah. India is likely to take over from it in the coming year. In contrast to India, it is of interest. How is China's demography changing as we speak?
If we just look into China's demographic trend and if we just backtrack a few decades back, today what we say India has achieved a replacement table of fertility, China achieved about 30 years back.
Okay.
And as what I said, that it takes its own 2 or 3 decades for a population to stabilize, and same thing is happening for China, and we will face in future that our population will continue to increase and then we will stabilize on that. But we have so many opportunities which at this moment, for example, we have because of the decline in fertility, we have got young cohorts coming up in reproductive ages, in productive ages. The need is to increase their productivity and reap the benefit of demographic dividend. But at the same time, if we just compare, so there the number of workers, their proportion of population is going to decrease because there was a rapid decline in fertility, and they are going to face the issue of, for example, aging of the population. While India is also poised to see that the aging population will happen, but it will happen slowly. Probably also India has an advantage because it's a very diverse country in terms of south, north, geography, yes, regions. So somewhere if it is a problem of aging, so other places the problem of youthfulness, and then how do we balance that, workers from one estate contributing to the other estate, migration, but the need of our is to equip our young persons. So wherever they go, they contribute there, they send back remittance to their own place of work. So these are the things in the plate, and I think we need to really work very hard, plan for it. And I think even for that, the kind of policies with the government which is coming now, for example, Skill India mission.
Right, absolutely, Dr. Kumar. In fact, what you're alluding to is a demographic dividend, which is a phrase that we're all familiar with India being the center of one of the largest youth population, adolescent population in the world, and that sort of is a matter of opportunity. How do you see the point that you were making about the advantage that we have, and how is the government able to capitalize or harness that potential according to you?
So this is, there are other factors also when we talk about demographic dividend. It's not, first of all, we need to understand that demographic dividend or window of opportunity cannot come automatically. We have to plan for it. We have to reap the benefits of that by investment in our adolescents and young. There are other aspects of demographic dividend as well. We need to also understand those. For example, women's labor force participation in India, which has actually shown a decline, and unless and until we plan for that, so there is a question on that, what is going to happen with with gender dividend. So unless and until we also keep an eye on those gender dividend, then we will be able to fully reap the benefits. And also there is another phenomena when we talk about demographic dividend, is if there are skilled workers, they actually get into the labor force, they are more productive, they earn, they save, and they accumulate wealth for their future. So we talk about second demographic dividend. When they will become old, they will have capital resources, so then they can take care of themselves with their own savings and investment which they have done for future, which is called the second demographic dividend. Right. So this is the time we have to plan for all those horizons and future perspectives.
Right. Dr. Deepa Prasad, invaluable point about gender dividend. This is stabilizing population, also an indicator of the manner in which women to a great extent are getting empowered. There's a greater focus on women's health and, more importantly, her right to make choices about her family.
Yeah. Subhendu, before I go on to that question, I want to mention, as we speak today, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, has received an award at the International Conference on Family Planning for recognizing its excellence in leadership for family planning. So it's also been recognized in terms of the investments, systematic programs that the family planning interventions have happened in India. Now, coming to your question, the global trends towards smaller families is a reflection of people, especially women making reproductive choices to have as few or as many children as they want. When people lack choice, it can have a long-term impact on fertility rates, especially for women, and making them higher or lower than what they desire. Choice can change the world, especially for women. It can rapidly improve their well-being, transform their families, and accelerate the global development. So for women, bodily autonomy is very essential. They need to make decisions over their own life and future. What's seen is that women, especially from marginalized groups in particular, face some of the highest unmet need for sexual and reproductive health services. This could be because of lack of information or lack of access or various other socio-cultural practices that exist in their communities. When women are empowered to make their own reproductive choices, a wide range of benefits accrue to their health and economic well-being. Not just in India and several other countries and across the globe, what is seen is there is a direct link between girls' education, number of years they've been in school, and fertility levels. So girls, if they are studying for many years in schools, there is a higher chance that they would get into employment, delay their marriages, have fewer children. So they are able to contribute to the socio-economic development of the country as well. So yes, definitely choice for women is most essential, especially when we are talking about their bodily autonomy and reproductive choices.
Right. And Dr. Kumar, if we look at the population as a holistic system, not just in terms of numbers, we see the need for 360-degree reforms and support systems. In that sense, how do you also assess Prime Minister Modi's vision to focus on the overall ease of living, whether it's housing, whether it's health, education, food security in the times of crisis, especially for the weaker sections?
Yes, it's very important. See, even when we talk about country as a whole, or even in one state, so it's not homogeneous, and we have a different subgroup of population with different backgrounds, and their conditions, their fertility and other conditions vary a lot. And I think there is a need, and when we talk about our 2030 agenda of sustainable development goal, the punchline there is leaving no one behind. And I think there is a need to focus on the marginalized section of our society, and data do tell about these things. Those who are vulnerable, those who are belonging to certain identities, their fertility, their characteristics, their empowerments are different than those who are from the upper segment of the society. So I think in that light, there are many programs by the government of India targeting to reach out to the vulnerable population groups, including housing, or even the best example is the food security. That for the entire in the pandemic time, for about more than 2 years, more than 800 million people were provided ration free of cost. So those kind of a very, very welcome steps, so that we can reduce the effect of pandemic. But at the same time, kind of other support given to this weaker section will help them to mainstream, come to the larger society, and then themselves they can take part into the development. So it is a very welcome step, and I think this is needed, that we should provide. And I should also name one of the very important thing: how do we see these differences and reach out to the marginalized section? This aspirational districts program, if we talk about, so it is not only because of the background characteristics of the household or individual, but even where we live, geography, right. That was also a lot of heterogeneous development. So the program is to push them and push out of and do the very rapid pace of development. That's another welcome step. Right. We are also supporting those.
Absolutely. And finally, I'd like some final thoughts from you. When we look at the UNFPA report on the population, it's a very interesting statement. It says how India's youthful population can be an invaluable resource to solve global problems. If you could just share your final thoughts in brief, Dr. Prasad, if I can come to you first.
So we've seen that India has been a large provider of services when we come to the IT sector. The other areas are healthcare, whether it's doctors, nurses, etc. So we've been providing services to the globe across the countries by investing in young people. Going forward, I think Government of India has a great vision on investing and building skills and capacities of its youth, whether it's the Skill India mission or the National Digital Mission and several other programs where the emphasis is on building capacities of its young people so that they then tend to provide services and change the world globally. I think there is a great expectation, but it also means the vision should now transform into action and people are able to take that forward.
Right, point taken. Dr. Kumar, your final thoughts on the positive potential of India's growing population.
I think I would say is that at least the recognizing that our young people needs attention and they have power, they can solve the global problems. And the kind of talent which we have seen in past, like IT sectors, the innovations done by our own young people, the startups coming up, I think we should be very hopeful that these programs will be implemented, it will be beneficial, but at the same time I think even from the population perspective or our individual perspective, we should also come forward and try to take benefits and contribute as much as we can do for India and as well as for the global problems.
Right, on that note, let me thank Dr. Sanjay Kumar, Dr. Deepa Prasad for joining us in this special program and sharing your perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that was our special conversation in interpreting the global population trends and the kind of opportunities and challenges that lie ahead for India. And with that, we conclude this special presentation. Namaskar.
You will meet two startup